Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Really excited about this session that we have today. Um, I think just to give kind of everybody a quick, intro as to what we're going to be talking about. Most trade businesses like yourselves have a ton of tools. The issue is, do they really connect well, right? Like, do you have the full visibility based on that kind of interconnectivity between the tools that we have? Right. So we have a great group on this panel. It's going to be super useful hour for anyone running vehicles and field employees in a trade business. Before we get into it, I want to give a quick round of intros. Jason, let's start with you. Would love to just have you quickly tell us about your company, how many vehicles you have, and your role in the company overall.
Well, great. I do appreciate the opportunity here today. I'm an operations manager. I've actually been in the HVAC industry for 20 plus years, and I've been with the company I'm currently with for 8 years. I started off as a service manager and then moved into operations about 5 years ago, and really never thought I'd be an operations person, but I have a mindset for it that I enjoy. But we've been in business 41 years, almost 42, and we have 43 employees. We have 20 vehicles out on the road, and so there's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, for sure. A ton of moving parts. Well, thanks, Jason. Excited to get to know you better and let everybody on the call hear your insights. JJ, let's kick it to you. Would love, a quick rundown of where your story and where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us today. I'm JJ. I manage the partnership team and business development team at FieldEdge and Service Autopilot. So FieldEdge is a CRM in the mechanical trade space, so plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and then Service Autopilot is in the green space, so lawn care, cleaning, things that deal with recurring services. We work with a lot of contractors every day, and we see the value in this, and we're really glad to be a part of this partnership and looking forward to the webinar today.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, JJ. Justin, let's kick it to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. So my name is Justin Wait. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at FleetSharp, where I've worked now for, I think it's 3 years, but have been in this space for over 15 years. So, GPS fleet tracking is what we do. And obviously we fit into this tech stack and looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, it'll be great. Just to maybe round it out, my name is Rachel Francis. I'm the Director of Sales over here at Coast. I've been at Coast for about 2 years now. Spent a lot of time at a company called Podium working with trades businesses and flipped over to Coast to really dig in on kind of the day-to-day to help businesses like yourselves save a ton of time and save a ton of money and have a connected way to control and get visibility into the spend and all of your expenses, right? I think, again, like as the invite talks about and as I touched on briefly, right, we're really going to break down today what a well-rounded fleet and field tech stack actually looks like, right? So a ton of you, I'm sure, are using a variety of tools. The question is, do they speak to each other? Do you have the data where you need it readily available? And can you make proactive and intelligent decisions based on that data that you have, right? So we'll be spending a ton of time hearing from Jason, who's actually living it like yourselves. Would love to get a kind of maybe stronger overview of the companies on the call. So JJ, we'll kick it over to you. Would love if you would tell us about FieldEdge and Service Autopilot and kind of how it stands out for your customers.
Absolutely. So both products are what you would call a CRM, or in our industry we call it an FSM, which is a field service management tool. Think of us as the home base or the core product that every business will use to manage the day-to-day operations of the business. So scheduling, dispatching, reporting, automations, integrations with other vendors. We're going to be the core management solution that contractors will use to manage the business. And then on top of that, you can layer additional integrations like we have with FleetSharp to be able to really leverage the power of that. And so FieldEdge is specifically geared for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And then Service Autopilot is geared towards companies that do more reoccurring service. So think lawn care, where you're going out to a house or a business once a week, or a cleaning company or a pest control company. And so both products are owned by the same company, just depending on the scope of the business. And we're really excited to be with some of the market leaders in this product.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks for that. Justin, let's get over to you for the same for FleetSharp.
Sure, yeah. So we are FleetSharp, again, GPS telematics software for field service fleets, and that spans in every industry. If you have white vans, trucks, cars that are going out to do jobs all day, number of jobs per day, GPS is really important. So, think real-time vehicle tracking, driver behavior scoring. Safety is really important right now. Are we being safe when we're driving our vehicles onto the road? Idle time reporting, as well as fuel monitoring. So really our whole focus is just giving operators visibility into their vehicles that they're not getting anywhere else. And I say vehicles, but also things like trailers, heavy machines, right? All the things that kind of fit into the fleet and what's going on at any given time.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for that. I'll handle the Coast side, right? So as I touched on briefly, Coast is a combined fuel card and corporate card for trade fleets, right? So think the control and visibility you have with a fuel card, with the flexibility that you typically get with a corporate card, right? So think fuel purchases, field purchases, vendor expenses, all on the Visa network. So like very strong acceptance rate across everything. I think where Coast stands out is of course like real-time controls at the point of purchase. You'll get receipts, fraud protection, of course. Importantly, Coast integrates with the systems that you guys use to manage your business every single day, right? So we integrate with FleetSharp and other telematics companies, accounting tools like QuickBooks, FSM integrations are on the roadmap, and really how Coast thinks about our strategy and how we provide the most value as possible for our customers are those integrations, right? So that brings us to the core of our discussion today, is having a full and connected tech stack, right? Instead of fragmented or messy processes that typically comes with tools that don't talk to each other, right? So we're of course going to be hearing from someone who's upgraded his systems and improved his efficiency. So Jason, we'll put you on the spot and get right into it. Would love to hear from yourself, right? Before you had the setup you have now, what did the day-to-day actually look like when it came to tracking what your team was spending and how you kind of reconciled that on all of their expenses out in the field?
Well, just to be 100% honest, almost embarrassed to say it, but the tracking of it was pretty bad. Just being real. You were counting on somebody, or I was counting on somebody to bring a receipt back that was out in the field, that set it down in this cup holder, and then got his big gulp, and then sat it on the receipt, and then tried to bring it back and found out that half of it was ripped in half or crumbled together, and just really relying on the fact if someone's going to bring that back. Or as a technician myself, I remember sometimes I'd open the door and the wind would just blow it, pick it up, and it would just fly away. And then I'd have to call and apologize, and they're like, yeah, right, your dog ate your homework, right? Now, but it was true. And trying to expect, 20 some odd people out in the field to respect these boundaries that we're trying to put in place to protect the company, trying to expect them to bring all that back, it was very difficult. So we really didn't track it well. We went on a big honor and trust system that, hey, these guys are really buying what they need for the job, really spending what they need for the job, and just praying that they were being honest. And unfortunately, probably like most, we realized there's some bad apples.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think as company grows, right, it's really hard to keep track of and have confidence in additional, people that you're interviewing for a couple hours at most, right?
Yes.
Did you feel like money was maybe going out the door and you couldn't quite pin it down? Or like, was it really just kind of as your business was growing, you found the need to kind of proactively lock down better control and visibility?
It's just one of those things. We knew it was going out the door. We didn't know where. It was not like a red flag that we went, hey, we're missing X amount of dollars today. But it was just that gut feeling of that something was missing, and we knew we could be better somehow. We just didn't know how to do it. But yeah, we knew we were missing something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, JJ, from the, FieldEdge and service Autopilot angle, is this like a common picture that you see when you guys are coming in with your customers?
Yeah, I think we can all visualize in our head, people who are in this industry, the technician who has every invoice and every receipt tucked in the dashboard of their truck, and what that looks like. And so we do see that across the industry, and I think that's why something like this is so valuable, because it does allow for a more seamless connection of that information from the field to the office, which is anytime you're going to ask someone who's really busy doing their job throughout the day to then take time to remember to bring that information back to the office, you're always going to have missing documentation or missing steps. So yeah, I agree. This is something we see quite frequently in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, makes a ton of sense. I mean, we see the same in Coast, right? Well, Jason, tell us a little bit about FieldEdge, right? Like you've been with them for a while. How does FieldEdge fit into how you run your operations day to day?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and just what JJ said about receipts being tucked away someplace. One thing I absolutely love about FieldEdge is that under expenses, we're allowed to go in there. Our technicians get purchase orders, or we call them expenses in FieldEdge. But you can actually make it a requirement to have a photo taken of that receipt to be able to close out that call. So it's not just gas card receipts, but you can use that for anything inside FieldEdge as well. So FieldEdge helps us be more efficient. We can see where our drivers are based off of like a little map that's on the bottom of the dispatch board. We can route them more efficiently. We get to be better for our customers on the front end because we are now presenting something nice. I had a guy once tell me, he said, Jason, the CRM that you're on previous to FieldEdge, he says the CRM that you're on is like a 1980s Ford truck. And he said, you know what? You're going to get a great result from this. It's going to run every day. It's going to show up, get you to your destination, and it's going to be a nice truck. He says, however, you're never going to have power windows. You're never going to have Bluetooth capabilities. He says you're never going to have all those things that you're really looking for unless you try a company like FieldEdge. And so that's when I actually looked at FieldEdge and saw that, the Bluetooth capabilities, all these different things that we've been looking for, trying to track our technicians to get them on more opportunity calls, to help customers, to help them reach their goals in life. And so FieldEdge really pushed us to that next level of being able to be more efficient for our homeowners and present quotes right there, real time, email quotes. We do reviews, and it has an option to send a review directly from FieldEdge to the homeowner, like on site. So there's a lot of things that it made us a better company through FieldEdge.
Yeah, I love that. For me, it's the backup camera. Like I don't know how I could drive a car without one these days. But yeah, no, I mean to your point, I think there are certain features that the modern tools and the modern tech stack will give you that are like candidly just table stakes at this point. JJ, is that like what you hear from your FieldEdge customers is like the most kind of common features and functionality that are changing the way that they operate their business every day?
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's 2026. We have to think about that. We live in a world now where AI dominates the conversation, where you're expected to have communication with your customers. You're expected to look and feel pretty, even if you're cleaning out a septic line every day, and so you have to present a professional image to your customers because they expect that, because when they go and work with other businesses like their dentist or their vet, they're also getting this professional image, this streamlined communication between various departments. And that's absolutely what we do, is to help to take all of those different parts of your business, put them under one roof, and then make the internal information easy to digest for your employees, but also make it really palatable for your customers to understand what's going on and to be able to communicate with you and receive information from us. So yeah, this is a super common topic right now in the industry, and I think it's time for contractors to understand that if you want to be able to be successful in a competitive environment like this, you have to have the tech stack to be able to make you look competitive to your customer base as well. So exactly what Jason was saying.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. Jason, talk to me a little bit about your Coast experience, if you don't mind, right? It's like when one of your techs out in the field swipes the Coast card, like what does that process look like for you? Like from when they make a purchase to what you see?
Yeah, well, I got to say something because I absolutely love Coast. So I just got to tell you, when it comes to implementation, any operations people out there, owners having to put processes in place, Coast has been one of the easiest implementing things that we've ever done, and the most like laid back, hands off kind of thing. And so no offense to FieldEdge, because that's a hard like transition getting all your customers over, but when it came to Coast, it was very simple to do, and we love it. So there's my little plug. Again, I'm an operations manager. I don't work for Coast, but if I can make anyone else's life easier, that's a good way. So, but I totally rabbit trailed on that. But the the part, repeat your question for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just want to understand like the process that your guys go through, like in using their Coast Card, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and maybe what did that look like before, and what does that look like today, like pre-Coast and then current picture, current state.
Yes. So I think to start off with, we have to backpedal just a little bit because the setup of the Coast Cards mixed with the technician and then mixed with the vehicle, that's where it all starts. So if you set it up properly on the front end, which is very simple, again, have your technician's name linked to a card, linked to a vehicle, it's very simple to do. And because now the process is our guys take their phone out, they text a phone, their mileage to the phone number. Once they do that, it tells them it has 10 minutes to get gas. Once they go up there, they swipe it or tap it because it's a Visa card at the gas pump there. You just use it and you get gas. At the very end, it even asks you, it says, hey, you're done. So can you upload a receipt? So they don't even have to go inside. They can get the receipt right there, take a picture of it, and it automatically hits the Coast portal, which then you can do a, in the accounting department, they can then send that on to QuickBooks. And it's very simple from that aspect of it. Very
Cool.
simple.
Yeah, no, love that. It makes a ton of sense. I know, Jason, you also have telematics in the mix, right? Like, what is having the vehicle data change about how you manage your team day to day, right?
Yes. Well, to start off with the combination of Coast and telematics, that has been a game changer because I spoke earlier about trust, and you have to have trust. And there was always this gut feeling that maybe somebody was, using our past gas cards for, personal reasons. And we just could never prove it. We just were like, why is so-and-so spending so much gas and nobody else is? Well, when you mix the combination with Coast with telematics, it now gives you a point where you can come from like a point of strength. And now knowing that if your vehicle that's tied to this employee, that's tied to this card, if they're not in the same place at the same time trying to use that gas card, it completely shuts down the transaction, will not allow it to happen. And then it also alerts that person that tried to use it, and it also alerts everybody that you have assigned, in our case is the management team, saying, hey, employee so-and-so just tried to use this card and he's not next to his vehicle. And so now it's obviously an awkward conversation to have with somebody, but let me just say in the year and a half, it's only happened one time, and we made it known to everybody that this was happened. We didn't call out the employee, but we let them know that we see these things, and it's not happened since.
Yeah. I mean just like the peace of mind, right? That it's all gonna alert you if there's an issue, or again, like proactively decline if something is attempted. What got you to telematics in the first place, right? Like, was there a certain number of trucks you had that you felt like you needed it? Was it an insurance thing, or like what was that kind of turning point that made you start looking into a telematics tool?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Unfortunately, it was an accident that had occurred. We had somebody pull out in front of one of our technicians, and he slammed on the brakes trying to slow down as fast as he could, but he hit like a little beat-up trailer that, had seen better days, and it had a little tiny lawnmower on it that was probably 20 years old, and we ended up spending thousands and thousands of dollars after being sued because of this little tiny trailer that we said, you know what? We should probably rethink this. So we started looking around and partnered up with telematics and was able to get that in our vehicles. That helps with the tracking and now also a safety reason. So, and I heard, Justin, I don't know if you had said it, or I heard it someplace here recently, but the scorecards, like there's like little scorecards and stuff that some of our technicians are already saying, they're like, hey, I want to win number one this month. I want to be the best driver in the company. So it's really neat to hear that nice competition that's going on.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. There's a saying that I often repeat, and it's not everybody necessarily aspires to be first. In your case, that was the point. But nobody wants to be last, right? So I think when the metrics become visible and people have a feeling, of kind of where they stand, you see this natural behavior change, which is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Justin, what are maybe some other things that operators don't really realize they're missing until they have the vehicle data or the safety data in front of them? What are some other trends there?
Yeah, I love this, and Jason's articulated a lot of this already, which is great. But a large part of my career I spent actually implementing this, telematics technology, and without fail, idle time always seems like the first thing that surprises people. When a manager first sees that first idle report, it is a gut punch. You might have trucks sitting for 3 or 4 hours a day, burning fuel. It's adding engine wear, and nobody knew. So that's a big one. And the second one I would say is route efficiency. So, Jason's spoken about this trust element, right, which is important. We trust that our guys are running logical routes between jobs. But when you actually see it mapped out and you're looking like at a route replay, you realize that, there's real cost associated with this. And driver behavior. So safety is the last thing that Jason hit on, but speeding, hard braking, right, cornering. Most managers know this is happening. They just have no way to address it without telematics in the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, data is everything, right? Like it's a proof point against the conversations that you're trying to have. Jason, I guess on that note, right? Like once everything's connected, what does the reporting actually look like for you, right? Like what are you looking at week to week? What decisions or conversations are you using this data to then go forward and have?
That is a great question, and there's a lot to unpack, so I'll try to make it pretty simple. Because, I mean, you look at FieldEdge, first of all, you look at the reporting there, and you can see their timesheets going through there, how many hours they're on jobs, and seeing that efficiency, and you mix that with the telematics of things of going, okay, they were sitting and idling for 3 hours. So there's conversations you get to have with dispatchers and call centers saying, hey, is there something we can do to route these guys a little bit better? Is there something we can do to get ahead of confirming calls with the customers prior so that we can get them on the road a little bit faster? Because that is, I mean, it's gas money for one, for the idling. Two, we probably got to 1 or 2 less customers a day, which ends up turning into more sales that we've now lost. So there's so much reporting that goes into it. And then also bringing it back to the coast side of things where you start looking at that gas, like you said, Justin, just you're idling for so long. And trying to help coach our team. Just like, look, if you're sitting for 20 or 30 minutes on a call, that's too long. After 10 minutes, please make a phone call to a manager. Like, can we not just think a little bit outside the box? Because, the technician or the field personnel, they are ready to go home. By the time they get to work, they're ready to go home. And it's like, so we're trying our best to make them efficient in the field so they can make the most money and get home to their family, because we're very big on that work-life balance. And so when it comes to coaching that, I mean, and tracking it every day, we are watching the reports in Coast. We're watching those reports in telematics, and we're watching the reports in FieldEdge every day to see what we can help. We can track the technicians' efficiencies in FieldEdge. There's just a lot of reportings. Like I said, there's a lot. I don't know how to condense that down, but we have options now. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's the key, right? Is like. What we hear often with Coast is with how either like inaccurate the data was based on like odometer readings and also how like late you were receiving the data is like you just didn't even know what to do with it. Like I talk to customers all the time that they're just like, honestly, the data was like essentially useless because I'd get it on a statement way after the fact or it would I knew it was wrong. But yeah, again, to your point, there's never really a bad thing to having too much data and too many options of how you could cut it down or use it, right?
I don't mean to cut you off, but on that note, I have it set up that my phone gets text every single time there's some sort of an issue with the card. And not saying Coast did anything wrong with the card, it's always operator error. But we have our technicians out there, and sometimes they'll forget to put their mileage in before they try to swipe their card. I instantly get a text message. It just floors me how many times I'll get a text that says didn't enter odometer, and then I get it right back again, didn't enter odometer. And so then I get my cell phone out and I'm like, here comes the phone call, here it comes. And sure enough, they call, Jason, my card's not working, it's not working, this garbage. And I say, well, did you enter your odometer? And they're like, oh no, I forgot. And it's like, try that and call me back if it doesn't work. And I've never heard back from them. Or the times that they it says their odometer reading doesn't match. Do I want to accept that? that different. I can do that straight from my phone, just replying Y, like the letter Y. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just having that power that I can just handle that from my phone. Previous companies we were with, you had to be sitting at a computer, you had to be investigating all this stuff of why this didn't happen or why this happened, and it just took so much time. Or like you said, Rachel, I just after the fact didn't even know it.
Yeah.
This is so real time that I mean I don't know. Like I said, I just love Coast because it's been so easy for us, and it's been a big game changer for us. And I don't know if I'm stealing any thunder for later, but we were paying a lot of money per month in fees from other places, and since we made the switch, we have saved about $685 a month that we could calculate to say that we have saved that by making the switch.
That's awesome. Did you, I mean, maybe not to put you on the spot, did you know that those fees were going out the door, or like, because we hear that a ton, right? Where it's like kind of hidden, or it's tough to find or tough to uncover. What did that look like for you? You didn't know.
Unfortunately, we didn't know. Like that was one of the conversations, when my boss actually got a letter in the mail and had like a little Coast card on it, and he's like, "You know what this is?" And I was like, "No, man, I ain't got a clue." And so we started looking into it, and then that's when we started having conversations with Coast, and then started realizing, okay, why are we paying all these fees? What's all this extra stuff? And that's when we noticed it, unfortunately. But fortunately, we got something a lot better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I guess maybe for Jason, to you, like, we'll kind of go through the roles of this, but like for someone in the audience today with running a similar operation, you obviously have a very connected tech stack, right? Like, what would you tell them to get in place first, right? Like, if you were going back and you could do this again, what would your kind of order of operations be to get to the visibility and control that you have over your business today?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's a lot of good companies right here. But I would say from an operational mindset, the fastest, the easiest, the most effective right out of the gate, I would have to start with Coast. Because, with telematics, I mean, you get everything plugged in, then you got to start learning how to track it, and then you have to, get everything set up. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a little bit more time consuming with setting up all vehicles and stuff and cameras and FieldEdge, getting all your customers to come over and getting that implemented. And there's just a time consuming process in that, but once it's up and running, it's great. But with Coast, it's a matter of, you got a dashboard. If you know your employee's name, their phone number, their tag number on their truck, you're pretty much set up. And so, and it's not just with, I know I've been speaking a lot about the fuel consumption, but the fact that we can now use that same card that we use for gas, and we can turn around and say, hey, I'm going to unlock this so he can use it at Lowe's because he needed to buy something. Right. Or we sent them to a job out of town that they were there for 7 days, and we went ahead and put their per diem on there. I think that's how you say it. And you put that on there and said you're allowed to have this much per day, and this is what you can spend. If you spend over, the card will decline. So we no longer had to give them cash, and go to the bank and get all that. It's like, no, now we just unlocked it for them. When they got back in town, we turned it right back on to the default settings, and now they just use it for gas. So, so I would say for ease, that's the fastest, most efficient onboarding process that I know of. But you can't go wrong in any of them. And then when you mix it with telematics and FieldEdge, it's a powerhouse.
Yeah, for sure. JJ, from your end, like, what's one thing that you think operators could do today to get better visibility into, I know like a huge piece for FieldEdge is job profitability, right? Like how do you guys think about that from the FieldEdge perspective?
Yeah, I think for a lot of contractors, we have to actually use the data in the first place. I think there's a lot of data available to contractors, especially if they're using Coast and FleetSharp. We have to have an agreement amongst all the managers of the business that we're going to use that data to drive our decisions. And I think switching to a data-driven decision-making process is the first step. And once we decide to do that, then we have to figure out what's the source of truth for the data we're using. Where are we going to learn the most from? And we're going to find that in FieldEdge and Service Autopilot for a lot of areas. then you're going to switch to FleetSharp because your source of truth for a lot of the telematics is going to be in their platform. And while the two integrate, of course, there's your source of truth. Same with Coast. The source of truth for whether they purchase something or didn't purchase, or the rules and how we set that up is in Coast. So we have to figure out where we're pulling our data from, have the agreement to use the data, and then know what are we doing with that data after we have it. How are we going to use that to drive decisions to make the business more efficient or to grow? And so the thing that I tell contractors a lot is that we have to make a decision across the company that we're going to use data to drive our decisions, not just a gut hunch or what I've always done for the last 30 years. And then once we have that, now we can use that to drive these really big, impactful business decisions. And I think all three of these products really help companies have a lot of data to use to drive those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, right? And that's new for a lot of operators. Like, unfortunately, the status quo for a really long time was go with your gut. What do we think, right? And that does not have to be the case anymore, right? Yeah, Justin, maybe same question from a telematics standpoint. Like, what's one thing that moves the needle the most?
Yeah, and Jason and JJ spoke to this a little bit, right? I don't want to undersell the integration and the power of like these three things talking to each other. That alone is incredibly powerful. But I would say, from a core product standpoint, as far as like metrics, right, that we're bringing to the table, and I talked about this a little bit earlier. It's idle time, right? It's the fastest win. You can show, manager, supervisor, a driver how much time they spent, idling, and then for the manager, supervisor, translating that to fuel costs, and behavior changes almost immediately. And we typically see like meaningful fuel savings within the first 60 days from one metric alone, and everything else, right? Routing, safety, maintenance, all the alerting that compounds on top of it. But idle is the one that I would tell, a customer to pull first and get their eyes on.
Yeah, that's huge. I think it's such an interesting and maybe kind of underrated or unexpected piece for people. We talk a ton at Coast just how like with this integration, it's like 1 + 1 = 3, right? Like when you have
100%.
all of these, it's not just you add a tool and you get that ad. It's like everything becomes like exponentially more valuable, and those investments that you're making into your tools are even more worth it because of the decisions you can make with all of the data, and there's just the peace of mind, again, that Jason speaks to a ton of, like the peace of mind that everything is working for you. Any final words from anyone here before we open it up to the audience?
I have two things, just real quick, if that's all right. So the first thing is I don't know, this is probably about 5 years ago, so it's kind of old data, but we still run with it. We did the math that we took all of our field personnel and we times it by an average like hourly rate out in the field, and then we calculated to see how much money it actually cost us to waste 30 minutes a day in the field.
Oh, cool.
And for us, it was $62,000. And again, this was 5 years ago. So I don't want to do the math now, but it cost us $62,000 just for field personnel. Not office, nothing, not just field. And which in turn, we know that they're at least spending an hour a day, if not more. So that's $124,000. And if they're wasting 2 hours, what is that? $248 something, $248,000 a year. That's pure profit. You cannot get it back. So that idle time is pure profit. And so, I think we're all in the game together to get profit and to be profitable. So that's one giant thing. So I'd encourage whoever's listening, do those kind of numbers and see what you're wasting, because if they're just not getting out of the office fast enough in the morning, that 30 minutes a day is costing you $62,000 a year, or whatever your number is.
That's huge. That's huge.
So when you start putting it to, well, man, we missed our plan this year by 100,000, be like, well, we did it to ourselves. So, so that was the first thing. The second thing is I forgot to say this, but as a management team, we got together, and especially with our accounting department. But when you're at the gas pump and it asks for a receipt, because it asks you to upload one, it's very easy to upload it. We made the effort to say we're not going to get receipts. 9 times out of 10, you go to a gas pump and the receipt machine doesn't even work. I think they want you just to go in and buy more in the store. But what we decided on day one was, before we rolled this out, just take a picture of the pump. Like, just take a picture of how many gallons you used and how much you spent. And we have not had a single person push back about, oh, that's all I have to do. So we made that conscious decision to say, just take a picture of the pump. As soon as you upload it, it hits Coast with the amount, and now you can verify that pump as well, and then mixed again with the telematics. It's very simple. So if that helps anybody, just make that effort, because it makes it easier for the guys in the field. And now you're actually getting the answer that you still wanted. It's just a little different way of getting it.
That's smart. Yeah, like meet them where they are, right? I love that. I think that's really smart. JJ, did you have a thought? I think I saw you come off mute for a second. I want to make sure that we give you that time.
Yeah, I think Justin and I probably both have wrap-up comments here. I'll just say, like you just said, Rachel, start where you are now. Don't try to become what you think you should be overnight. Take baby steps and knock off one thing now. Get that implemented, get it going, then do something else. And don't try to what do they say, take a bite of the elephant one bite at a time, or how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. One bite at a time. I think especially small teams trying to do too much at once can be overwhelming, and those projects can end up stalling. So just take it easy and see where you are, and one step at a time is my final advice.
Yeah, stole my thunder. Which obviously points to how true the statement is, but try to impact a single metric, right? Start there. We talk about idle, right, in our case, but since that's been said, the last thing I would say is, tie it to your weekly conversations with the team. This isn't necessarily something that you're reinventing, right? If you already have a stand-up meeting every Friday, every other Friday, those are opportune times to bring these metrics into the discussion and let them know, like, hey, these are the metrics that are important to us. Here's why. Here's how we're going to measure that. And then you follow that up with, hey, we have been measuring this, and look at how far we've come, right? That goes a long way. So start small. Manage what you can measure, and you will see the change.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's open it up to Q&A. I think there are a few questions. Robert, yes, this webinar is recorded, so we'll be able to share out the recording to you for sure. Dayton, in answer to your question, yes, Coast, FleetSharp, FieldEdge, like, yes, it all integrates and shares information with each other, right? So yes, you can set that up. Again, I think all of the people on this call are very tech forward and wanting, it's generally a piece of strategy to make sure that we are getting the information to you in the tool that you want to use to find that information. In terms of setting different limits for different employees or job types with Coast, yes, right? So I think Jason just mentioned, maybe gas stations are sneaky. This wouldn't be the first time that we know they're kind of sneaky and they don't fill their receipt paper so that you go in and you buy some smokes and cokes in the station. With Coast, if you want, the techs can only spend at the pump and the card will decline inside at the cashier, you can set that limit. If there's a different type of employee you have and you want them to have a different policy or more approvals on either merchant type or category, yes, you can change that. Jason, do you have maybe an example of how do you have different policies set up for different people at your business?
We do. We actually have a manager's policy, so we can allow them to any manager to have X amount of dollars to spend per month. That way, if they want to go out and buy donuts or something for the team, or take somebody to lunch, they have that availability. We also have just kind of default driver one, which we give them just for gas. We can set that limit. One thing just for, again, the operationally minded people here, is just watch. Sometimes there's, credit cards take out certain amount, or gas stations, take out certain amounts, and you have to, I think maybe 350 might be the limit. I think that's what we have ours set to for a week or something, but it will pull over something, so you have to just make sure you set your threshold accordingly. You'll find out quick because you'll get the error to your phone says, hey, we got an issue. So, but we do have different ones. We do have I'm trying to think what else. I can't remember what else we got, but we have a few different ones, and it's very customizable. For grocery stores, do you want them to be able to buy food? Do you want them to spend it just on gas? There's a lot of different things you can select.
Yep. Yeah, it's very, very simple to toggle on and off. I think to your point, right? If they're going out of town for a job, toggle on hotels, toggle it off when they're back, right? JJ, maybe we'll kick this over to you. There's a question, how are FieldEdge reports different than what's in the accounting system?
Yeah, I think for both FieldEdge and Service Autopilot, since they're both CRMs, just different industries. We have to think about it. Your accounting system is where the money lies in your P&L and all of that, but the CRM, that's where your telematics information gets absorbed. That's where we are able to see time entries based on location and what time they clocked in and where they were, and the data that we can incorporate from Coast to figure out how all this meshes. That's what you get out of the reporting in your CRM, like FieldEdge and Service Autopilot. You're not going to get that out of your QuickBooks or Sage. Of course, you're going to be able to see the end result of where your payments live and your invoices and balances on the customer and your actual, your balance sheet and your income statement and all that. But that's not going to give you your day-to-day reporting that you need to be able to make these decisions. And that's where the reporting inside our systems, tying into FleetSharp and Coast, really give you that valuable tool to use day to day. That way you're not just relying on checking out your P&L once a quarter or twice a year. You're using it daily, weekly, monthly with all of your teams to make the best informed decisions you can about your business.
Perfect. Awesome. Jeffrey has a question. What are the fees and costs of the Coast Card? Again, this is, as I'm sure is probably pretty standard across the board. Like that, it varies a bit depending on, size of business and overall spend, right? And kind of what you're coming to us with. The standard cost of a Coast Card is $4 per active user per month, right? So if you have 20 guys, they all have a Coast Card, but only 16 of them are working that month, and 16 of them swipe a card, you would pay 4 times 16, right? If there's a month that all 20 of them swipe a card, you'd be paying 4 times 20. That's one of the kind of key differences with a Coast Card versus, a WEX or a standard fuel card is you can have a stack of Coast Cards sitting in your desk that are ready to be activated and handed to a new hire the second that they start on a job, and you're not paying for those 20, 25 cards, right? So yeah, it's a slightly different, the idea of kind of fungible cards is a very different world, but it makes it, we've heard a ton of great feedback that it makes it really easy when a new tech comes in, that they're never like, oh, your card isn't here yet, it takes a long time to ship, you need to use another person's card, and then your data's messed up anyway.
Yeah, Jason could probably has maybe even lived that situation once before. But as somebody again who has implemented this technology, that what you just mentioned, the administrative burden of that new driver coming in and not yet having a card, is a lot on the office. So the fact that you guys are doing that's great.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Yeah, I love this, Jeffrey. Fueling at the end of the day is better because it protects the next morning's production window, reduces temptation. Gas stations are built to pull people inside. If fueling happens during the workday, it easily becomes drinks, snacks, scrolling, bathroom chatting, and delay. End of day fueling makes a controlled operational task, not an open-ended break. Yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah, I wonder how much idle time is spent sitting at a gas station because you're hanging out with, a monster inside. Or again, you can just turn off cashier in your Coast Card and they can't spend money inside anyway. And then it helps with all of that, right? One of the two, either fill at the end of the day or do pump only controls on your Coast Card. Any other questions? I want to make sure that I leave enough time that people can ask anything that's on their mind. All right. If not, again, drop in the chat if you would like someone to follow up with you directly from the Coast side, from the FieldEdge Service Autopilot side, from the FleetSharp side. Thanks to everybody for joining. This has been an incredible conversation. Jason, thanks a ton for singing praises and being a great example of how businesses can operate in a more modern way and can really have good visibility into how the business is running. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Loved having you here, and we'll see you next time.